Let's do this hash ports problem in C today because the interviewer is trying to. Sometimes interviewers uh, give constraints like you should do this problem only in C, and maybe for a firmware related work, it's possible that they would like you to have a good command of the C language. So uh, that's why they might put a restriction on the language to be used to solve the problem. And today we are taking the send times this hash ports implementation again in C. The problem is well known. We can see my previous video of how to do this in C++ where we describe what the problem is. You're basically given you have packets coming on different ports in the system, and they are sent according to hash of their ID against mod of number of ports. And if the port is busy, you try to send it to the next port until the port is not busy, and then you send it out. So that's the problem. So this is C, and this is the function signature you will find in HackerRank or Lead Code and things like that. So how to implement this problem in C? So now you see one thing in C++ and Python, we saw that it was very easy to get map, and maps were easily available. A lot of data structures are easily available. But for this problem, as you know, in C we don't have the built-in complicated data structures. You will be given everything in terms of returning an int star, basically return an array. The size of the array in C, you have to have array and the size both at the same time. So the size of the array will be returned in this um, variable result count. And so these are the two output parameters if you think about it. One is the return value from the function, other is the return value through this int star pointer variable result count. And rest is pretty much the same: number of ports, transmission time, packet IDs, and count. Now you see the vector of vector IDs or Python, it has basically become just a packet ID count and int star packet IDs. So that's just array. That's the packet ID is coming, and we are given the size of that array. Now how to do this problem in C? So let's start doing it. We would just see. So this is, now you see one thing, we have to return an array and the size of the array. So definitely we need two variables, and so those two variables are, for example, they could be these two: port IDs and port IDs count. Now these are our outgoing variable. If you think about it, we just have to calculate them in our implementation. Now other thing is, now you see we don't have maps, so how do we take care of that issue? So that can be solved by having a, instead of map we can use an array, and like this mapper and calloc guarantees that we will get an array which is initialized to all zeros, so we don't have to do this explicit for loop or something to initialize the array, because you know in time in interviews the time constraints are very important. So next we have the current packet that we are processing, and that's of course a sequential thing, and that's what tells us about, see, the, in a way, the packet ID and the no, sorry, the count of the packet that we are processing plus the transmission time becomes your way to basically go to the do your linear probing. So remember that part. Now rest, if you think about it, is more or less the same, except I would say the syntax, and the syntax is, uh, if you see, the rest of the problems are the same. So now you see, instead of doing an auto and things like that in C++, we just have to do a for loop, and then we just have to do the make sure that packet IDs you have to grab this time from the your array. So it's just mostly I would say concept is the same, but instead of C++11 giving you auto and directly taking each element from there, from the array, input array, we have to basically get the array like this here. See, packet ID we have to get by indexing into the input array. Now rest is, you see, instead of map, hash map, I called my variable this time map array. So map array, as we saw, we just got it using calloc, just in one line. Map array equal to calloc number of ports, size of int, and we'll store the value as the at that particular index. So the index becomes our automatic key, kind of like. So instead of, and that also is O1 actually, if you think about it. The indexing into array is a O1. So that's going to be a very interesting. I would say more or less the same concept. And rest is, you see, all we have to do is return these two variables, and we are done. Implementation of the function is done. So that's as easy as that, I would say. It wasn't too hard. So basically the result count is, since it was coming as a pointer to us, we have to write the result count and we have to return the port IDs, and that should be the implementation of send times function in C. And so it wasn't too hard if you think about it, even though we don't have the complicated data structures, interesting data structures in C library, but we have enough to solve this problem. I mean, arrays are enough for us to solve this problem. Now you see, how do we test this function? So let's see if the output is the same. As you can see, in the given problem, we were given what will be the input and the out, what should be the input. So we have the number of ports is 3, transition time was 2 actually, so let's put it 2, and the packet IDs were 4, 7, 10, 6, and rest is all syntactic thing, how to pass the variables. And then after that I'm printing the return port IDs and the actual port IDs that were packets were sent on. And we saw in C++ implementation we were getting 1, 2, 1, 0, whatever the output. We will see the same output if we get here or not. So let's run code here, and you see, there we go, we got 1, 2, 1, 0, and that was the same thing we were getting. If you think about it, we were getting the same thing over there in C++. So let's see if we have that implementation still. So it's hash ports, let's see. Okay, so that's your hash ports C++ implementation. And then let's assign the packet IDs to very small value rather than this huge array, whatever the input was given to us. So there we go, we got the packet IDs this time in C++ program also. And transition time will be 2 and number of ports was 3. And let's see if we get the same result here. We say run code, and there you go, 1, 2, 1, 0. So C implementation, if you think about it, the takeaway from this video is that in C we don't have, of course we don't have maps, but that problem most of the time, if your keys are nothing but just integers that can be that are that basically we can use an array instead of a map in that case, because if your keys are just integers, then it becomes a very simple problem that an array can be used, and we can use calloc to just do a one line allocation of that array, and it is called, so as we saw, send times is called only once, you see. So it's not like we have to worry about, hey, this map array has to be static or it has to be available for multiple calls of send times. So there you have it, you have your C implementation of send times. I hope it is going to be useful for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.